On this week's latest installment of Backdoor Pilot episode, Ahsoka. How's it going, everybody? This is Phil, and this is the review, the recap, the spoilers of The Mandalorian Season 2, Episode 5, entitled The Jedi. So, as is not the case, typically we start these episodes off with The Mandalorian right where we left off with him, but this one opens up a little bit different, as right away we are on the planet Caladan. Now, this is where the Mandalorian is actually making his way to bring the child so he can find others of his kind. And, of course, the mission at this point now involves finding Ahsoka Tano. And, you know, with this episode, we know, written by Dave Filoni, directed by Dave Filoni, and starring Ahsoka Tano. And the question was, when will we see this character finally? I mean, we know we're going to see her in this episode, but at what point in the episode? Are we going to see her at the midway point? Is she going to show up at the end to save the day? Are they going to wait a little bit? No. It opens up right away with the Ahsoka Tano. They don't dick around. They get right into it. So we are on Caladan, and it is kind of just this planet that looks like a smoldering husk of what used to be this vibrant, lush planet filled with trees and foliage everywhere, and everything just seems to be dead and burnt out. And there's a lot of smoke and fog and mist, and there is this army out there in the woods, and they are looking for Ahsoka Tano, and she is just slipping in and out of the darkness just like a ninja with her twin lightsabers igniting and just taking out people and then disappearing again. And it really is a beautiful sequence and a fantastic introduction to this character in live action. I mean, just really cool. I mean, as a fan of the Clone Wars, and you know, and watching Rebels, and to finally see this character in live action, I mean, it really is just one of those goosebump moments. Just to finally see this character realized in live action on screen. So she is making her way to this town, and this town seems to be heavily fortified, and there's a wall there, and atop the wall is the magistrate. I believe her name is Vespa, or I'm not exactly sure. Let's just call her the magistrate. And she is flanked on either side by a few of her soldiers, including Michael Biehn, who plays a character called Lang. And as Ahsoka gets closer to the gates, the magistrate knows that she's there. She tells herself, you know, reveal yourself to me, Jedi. And Ahsoka ignites her lightsabers and emerges from the mist. And she basically calls out to the magistrate, telling her to give her what she seeks, which is information. She's looking for information of some type. And we kind of get this little clunky dialogue between the both of them. It's not going to win any prizes for screenwriting, but serves the purpose of the episode. So the magistrate says, you know, you'll never get the information from me. And she brings up one of the villagers that she's holding captive there. And she says, you know, how much is my information worth to you? Is it worth the life of 1 or 10 or 100? And they essentially are at a stalemate. So Ahsoka has, at that point, she has no options but to kind of pull back, and she gives the magistrate 24 hours to make a decision whether or not she wants to play ball, and if not, Ahsoka will return and she will take care of business. So it's at that point then we get the title card for the Mandalorian and the Jedi, and then we finally find ourselves back on the Razor Crest with the Mandalorian and with Baby Yoda, and they have finally arrived at their destination. So as they land, they get out, and it's a really nice shot, actually. Again, this show has done a nice job of establishing shots as they go from planet to planet. So as the Mandalorian makes his way off of the Razor Crest, we get this nice kind of panoramic shot of the surrounding environment. And we have these tall trees that are kind of just, they look like they've been burnt out or have long died, and then we get these really tall creatures through the mist in the background who seem to be foraging for whatever they could possibly eat. You know, at this point, on this planet. So the Mandalorian makes his way to the town. He arrives at the gates, and they ask him what his business is there. He's a tracker, he's a hunter, or something of that nature, and they allow him into the gates. He's then starts to make his way through town, and he does what he would normally do, which is gathering information. And as he goes from person to person, they basically want nothing to do with him because they live in fear, and if they give up any information, they know that they're going to be punished. So eventually, a couple of guards make their way over to him and says that the magistrate wants to meet with you. So they bring him into kind of this inner stronghold, this sanctum within the town, and these gates open up, and outside the gates, everything is just dirty and drab, and it looks war-torn and just beat up and grungy. And you open up the gates, and it's just beautiful. It's Mr. Miyagi's backyard, and there's the magistrate, and it's just a beautiful, plants and fountains and ponds, and it's really it'd be like a beautiful yard anywhere. She recognizes him as a Mandalorian, and his reputation of his kind precedes him. So she offers him a deal, and she says that she will give him a spear made of solid Beskar if he can go ahead and kill the Jedi. And so he essentially takes her up on it just to kind of get out of there so he could go and continue on his mission to find Ahsoka Tano. And it's funny, as he's getting ready to leave the gates, he's got little baby Yoda in the pouch. Michael Biehn kind of sees it. He's like, "What is that thing?" He's like, Mandalorian's like, I keep it for good luck. Michael Bihn's like, "Well, you're gonna need it." So, the Mandalorian gets out there, and he's kind of looking around for Ahsoka, and he gets to this one area, and he hears something. So he puts baby Yoda down, and out of nowhere, Ahsoka Tano comes out. They have this battle, this quick little exchange where they square off, which is, again, is pretty much par for the course when two heroes meet who don't know each other. They have a brief fight, and then they introduce each other, and then they're on common ground. So that, again, it's the trope that gets played out here. So in the midst of this confrontation, they have basically a standoff, and at that point, the Mandalorian calls out to her. He says, "Ahsoka Tano, I was sent by Bo-Katan. And I need to talk to you." And then she basically retracts her lightsabers and stands up, and she goes, "I hope it's about him," referring to Baby Yoda. So they kind of set up camp in this location, and we get the scene where Ahsoka Tano is essentially communicating with Baby Yoda, and they're not speaking to each other, but she's kind of just, reading his thoughts and communicating telepathically. And she goes on to then, once she's finished, explains to the Mandalorian. And man, do we get, for a character that has been, for 1.5 seasons, shrouded in mystery and fan theories and speculation, we get an exposition dump. And it's just like, all right, just check this off all on the list. We get... the name of the character is Grogu. So we're going to have to get used to that. It's no longer the child or the asset or Baby Yoda. It is Grogu from this point forward. He was on Coruscant at the Jedi Temple. He was trained by many Jedi masters, and then when the Clone Wars were coming to an end and the rise of the Empire took place, he was whisked away to protect him, and then somebody took him, and then after that things kind of went dark as far as his memories are concerned, and the child Grogu has basically closed himself off from the Force, or has hidden his abilities so that way he could essentially just survive. So that is a lot of information, just all at once that we were able to gather in this short little scene. And it's funny because when she says what his name is, and the Mandalorian repeats his name back, he looks up at him and he coos. So it's he's, obviously he recognizes his name. So the next day, Ahsoka decides that. She's going to train him. Well, not train him, but she's going to kind of give him a little test. So she puts him on, maybe about 10 feet away from him. She picks up a stone and she kind of pushes it over to him using the Force. And she wants him to send it back. And he kind of looks at it, you know, and the Mandalorian's like, he doesn't understand. And, you know, and he like, it's funny because at one point he kind of like, he wants him to do it. So he looks at him and he's like, he looks and nudges with his helmet. He's like, come on, kid, you can do it. And then Grogu just like throws it down and he's just like, you know, see, I told you. And she was like, all right, let's try something else. So she makes the Mandalorian try to do the same thing. And he picks up a stone, or she gives him a stone, I forget which way it was. And he wants the child, he wants Grogu. I get used to that. I don't want to insult the Grogu fans out there. So he's got to get Grogu to bring the stone to him. And nothing. So, you know, so basically, it's like, try again. And the Mandalorian actually takes the knob from the Razor Crest and he holds it out to him, and it's something that he connects with and identifies with. So he tells Grogu to take the knob from his hand, use the Force to levitate it towards him. And the kid, he does. He reaches out and he takes it, and, you know, Mandalorian's all excited. He's like, way to go, kid. And there's a smile on Ahsoka's face for like a brief moment, and then she realizes, you know, she tells the Mandalorian, she goes, I can't train him. And he's like, why? Why not? You know, he's like, he needs training. And she's like, because he's emotionally attached to him, and his feelings make him weak. And he could be manipulated as a part of that. And he's like, well, all the more for him to be trained. And, you know, this is where we get Ahsoka as a character, and we know that she's thinking about Anakin, and that your emotions can serve to betray you, and that could lead you down the path to the dark side. And we've already seen in prior episodes with Baby Yoda where his emotional connection to the Mandalorian does have him strike out in anger. I mean, he might not know any better, but, you know, in that one episode where he's arm wrestling with Cara Dune and he uses the Force choke on her, that's the child is susceptible to these types of feelings, and just instinctively using his powers because he can't control his emotions, or he doesn't realize it. And you would think that as time goes on, he might be able to better control his feelings of anger and fear, and control his attachment to people, and make a better choice. Ahsoka's been down this path before, and she's seen what the worst of it can be. And she's not willing to venture down that path again and train this child and let him go on to possibly turn to the dark side and become another force of evil, like her former master Anakin became. So she goes to walk away, and the Mandalorian, he just says, look, I was sent here to kill you. I didn't take the job. I could help you, but if I help you, you have to agree to train the child. So we cut to the town, and we can see we have the troops. They're on top of the wall. They're looking out into the mist, and we see Ahsoka. She just starts running towards them, and they're like, here she comes, sound the alarm. They start wailing on that big metal gong, that bell that they have there. And she jumps up over the wall, and she takes out all of these troopers, cuts that gong right in half. It goes just rolling down into the town square. And then we can see the magistrate. She comes out, and she's flanked by all of her troops. She's got Michael Bihn's character Lang, he's standing next to her, and Ahsoka just appears and walks towards them, and she throws out the Mandalorian's shoulder bell, the one with the mud horn signet on it, and she says, your bounty hunter has failed you. Now give me the information that I want. Who is your master? And the magistrate she doesn't want to play ball, so she basically gives the order to kill her. So Ahsoka jumps out of screen, she lands on the roof, and they just start unloading on her, and she's deflecting laser blasts. She takes off, becomes this game of cat and mouse through all the various corridors of this township, and she's just taking out soldiers left and right. Also, before the magistrate goes back into her inner sanctum, she gives the order to execute. There are a couple of villagers that are just outside there that are kind of strung up, who are being electrocuted, like, periodically. So she says to execute them, and then says just go door to door after that. And then the Mandalorian, he sweeps in, and he's able to take out a couple of guards, and he helps the villagers rescue these people from these electrified pedestals that they're on. So we cut back to the back alleyways where Ahsoka is playing this game of cat and mouse with Lang and the other droids. He's got a couple of assassin and battle droids with him and other troopers, and she's just taking them out left and right. And it's really cool because she moves with such stealth. And you don't know that she's upon you until the moment that she's there, and then she ignites her lightsabers, and that's it. Like you just don't hear her at all. And she's on the rooftops, she's behind you, you never see her coming. So it gets to the point where Lang circles back, and he's in basically the Main Street area. And at that point, the Mandalorian, he just finished helping rescue some of the other villagers, and you get this standoff between the Mandalorian and Lang. And then Ahsoka, you can see her high above, and she drops behind the wall into the sanctum, and she goes to confront the magistrate. And they have this duel. The magistrate uses the Beskar spear, and Ahsoka, of course, uses her twin lightsabers. And the whole time, you have the Mandalorian and Lang, and they're having this conversation, and they're just listening to see who has the upper hand of the battle, which is kind of cool. And then, it gets to a point where Ahsoka is able to take out the magistrate, and Lang says, "Looks like your side won." Puts his blaster down, and then, of course, he's a villain, so he can't be trusted. And the Mandalorian, he's waiting on it. Lang goes to reach, and he just gets blown away in the middle of the street by the Mandalorian. So then we get in. We're there with with Ahsoka and the magistrate, and now that she's bested her, we're like, okay, we're gonna get the information that we're looking for. And she's like, "Now tell me where your master is." And it's like, all right, we're gonna find out what's going on. Here's where everything's gonna start to really connect. And she goes, "So you're expecting, tell me where Moff Gideon is." And she's like, "Tell me where Grand Admiral Thrawn is." What?
What?
I mean, what is going on here? So, look, I never saw that coming. Not a million years. I mean, it's one thing to cast an actor and be like, who's he going to play? And it's kind of like, oh, he's going to be Thrawn, he's going to be Kenobi, he's going to be a young Anakin or a young Luke or this or that or whatever. But if you cast nobody and then you just have this bomb waiting to go off in the middle of your episode, or I guess at the tail end of your episode, it's like, what the hell? I mean, there have been some like what the fuck moments on this show, but like that was one that I was just like, what the fuck? I mean, my basically my reaction was like, ooh. I was just like, what? I didn't see what? So okay, so anyway, moving on with the episode. I mean, it cuts right there the next day. All the town people are free. We get to the gate. The Mandalorian, he walks out with Ahsoka. She gives him the spear. He says, "I didn't earn it. I didn't complete my job." And she's like, it belongs with a Mandalorian. So she asks for Grogu. He says, back at the ship. So he goes back to the ship to get Grogu. And Ahsoka follows him, shows up, says that, I cannot train him. And he's like, "I upheld my end of the bargain. It's only right that you uphold yours." That was the deal. So Ahsoka says basically that there's one possibility that if he takes Grogu to the planet Tython, there he's going to find the ancient ruins of an old Jedi temple where the Force is particularly strong, the presence of the Force. If he places Grogu on top of a seeing stone at the top of a mountain, and then he lights a match, and then he stamps his foot, and then he rubs his belly 3 times, and then whistles Dixie. Perhaps when Grogu reaches out in the Force, then a Jedi Master will come for him, and Grogu can choose his path, and so that's essentially how the episode ends. Of course, all that extra stuff at the I added in there. But anyway, that's where we leave off. So now the Mandalorian, where we thought this was going to be kind of maybe some kind of a resolution with Grogu. It wasn't. It was like a false finish, and now we're off to the next destination. And that's it. So he takes off, and that's the end of the episode. I gotta grade this episode on different things here, right? Because, okay, as far as, look, I think we're past the point of grading this show as far as technical aspects are concerned. It's beautiful. Every planet we go to that's realized, it's everything is done really well, and it's really great to see all of these different locations and go to all of these different planets. And that was one of the things that I really liked about Star Wars and the original movies and the prequels and any of the Star Wars films for that point, is just getting to go to different locations, seeing all these different planets realized, and getting to be like, wow, all right, so here's this, here's that. I really love that. And every episode, a lot of these episodes, when we're not going back to planets that we've already been to, we get to go to a new location, and it's fun. I enjoy the exploration of the Star Wars universe in that way. As far as Rosario Dawson is concerned, as a live, real life, fully realized, on the screen Ahsoka Tano, I dig it. When she was first cast and I heard the news Rosario Dawson is going to play Ahsoka Tano, I was like, and I have no issues with Rosario, though. Let it be said right now, I have no issues with her personally as far as anything that goes on outside of her being an actress. I just don't give a shit, right? That's not why I'm here. This channel is not about that. If anything, this channel is about, let's keep that shit out of our movies and out of our shows. I don't like that. I don't pick a side as far as right or left. I don't want any of it. None of it involved in my television, in my shows, in my franchises. So whatever's going on, whatever's swirling around, I have no interest in canceling Rosario Dawson or Gina Carano. I have no interest in that. It's bullshit. And as far as I'm concerned, these aren't real fans, because they're watching the shows for something else. They're watching for outrage. They're watching to have a hot take. They're watching to get clout, for somebody to retweet their bullshit. That's not why I watch the show. I watch the show because I'm a fan of Star Wars, and I enjoy Star Wars, and I want to have fun with Star Wars, because Star Wars is supposed to be about fun. It's not about getting outraged and being upset about bullshit. Unless it's really bad Star Wars, then you can get called out on it. But other than that, I have no problems with that. So I don't have a problem with Rosario Dawson in this role as Ahsoka Tano, and seeing her being cast, I had no problems necessarily with. I was just indifferent. Seeing her in the role, I like her, and I accept her as Ahsoka Tano. And if she shows up in subsequent episodes, or she does get her own series based off of this kind of backdoor pilot, which is, what some of these episodes are feeling like with Bo-Katan and now with Ahsoka Tano, I'm all in on that. If she shows up in the Obi-Wan show, fantastic. Love to see her cross over there too. If she somehow shows up in a movie, fantastic. I like Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka Tano. I'm on the record as saying it. I don't care about anything else that goes on outside of Star Wars in her personal life or any other that nonsense. So I thought they did a really good job with her. It could have went really bad when you take an animated character and you try to realize it live on screen. And so far, this show has done a really good job for a show, not a movie, but for a show. The budget is there, so they've done really good jobs with translating characters that were part of an animated series and seeing them live on screen. I thought they did a really good job with her. She looked great. She moved fantastic. It's you get used to seeing a character move a certain way when they're animated, and there's embellishments that are taking place and liberties as far as what you can do physically. So yeah, I didn't think that Rosario Dawson was going to necessarily move around just as physically nimble as an animated character was, but the way that they had her moving through the mist and being so stealthy and cutting people down, and yeah, she was very athletic and very agile as well, and it all felt kind of realistic. So as realistic as a Jedi could be on screen. And I got to tell you, as far as this show is concerned, Disney's had this franchise now for how many years? We still haven't gotten a real Jedi on screen up until this point, as far as I'm concerned. Finally, thank you, Dave Filoni. Thank you, Jon Favreau, for actually giving us a Jedi, finally, in the Disney era of Star Wars. So, yay. After that, the episode as a whole, It's a pretty good episode because it showcases Ahsoka Tano. It's kind of a wow episode because it kind of blows the doors off of the mystery, with that exposition dump of Grogu. But it kind of feels like we're spinning our wheels at this point, because this episode we were building up to meeting Ahsoka Tano, and it's almost like you're so dazzled by that you forget, like, we're trying to tell this bigger story here. And the way the last episode ended off with Moff Gideon, and we see the Dark Troopers and what's going on with the whole cloning process or trying to create these super soldiers and everything like that, and it's just like, that's dead. This episode is its own thing, but again, it follows a different thread of what the story is as far as Baby Yoda or Grogu reuniting with more of his kind. There's a lot of fits and starts with this show where you'll get an episode where it's a bridge or some kind of feels like a filler, and it might be a little bit of moving the story along, but it's just enough to kind of get to the next episode at the next location. It almost feels like phase 3 of the Marvel movies, where you would get an individual movie for Guardians of the Galaxy or Thor, but it felt more like it was just trying to set up Infinity War than anything else. Then it was really trying to just tell the story of these separate characters. So this show seems to be following the same thing, where it is episodic in nature. There is a greater story at hand, but it really takes its time, and it gets to the point where it's just like, look, man, like, I like the show. I love the show. I look forward to it every week, but I want to see more of the story kind of unfold along the way. And with the episodic nature of things, it's kind of like there's this overarching story that they're telling, but they're really spacing their time, and it almost feels like, they're just dangling that carrot in front of you. And I want to see this story progress. I want to see things with Moff Gideon. Like, it's kind of like Moff Gideon seems like this really cool character, and he's grown on me as a villain and an antagonist. And then all of a sudden we bring Thrawn, Grand Admiral Thrawn, into it, and it just it completely undermines Moff Gideon as he rises along the ranks of how the fans perceive the big bad villain in this show. Now it undercuts Moff Gideon. He's like, oh shit, Thrawn is involved with this too. So it's like, I don't know if they're doing that just to set up an Ahsoka series of her own, and it'll branch off from there, and then maybe we'll get some crossover between both shows. I don't really know, but it feels like this show needs to sometimes focus in a little bit more on the story that it's trying to tell, instead of trying to tell all these other side stories. And I don't know how far we go with the whole Grogu story. Like, is this going to be 5 seasons of jumping from planet to planet and trying to figure out, where do we have to go next to find this kid's final resting place? Does the Mandalorian ever just say, hey kid, it's been nice knowing you, and then he goes off and has other adventures? Or is this going to be for the whole entirety of the show? I don't know. I'm just kind of thinking out loud here, but like, when he finally gets to Ahsoka and she's just like, oh, now you got to go to planet. She's like, no, I'm not going to train him, go to Tython. I'm like, oh, what are we doing here? So, but please don't get it wrong. I do love the show. I have so much fun with it. I'm enjoying everything about the show. Sometimes I'm just kind of like, oh man, maybe I want it all at once. And that's the thing with episodic television, is that there's value in playing the story out, as opposed to a movie where you got to tell that story for the most part within 2 hours. But with episodic television, you can fall into this trap of, it's like, we're going to keep moving the goalposts. We're going to keep, just when you think you get there, we're going to go somewhere else, and we're going to do another thing. And then, you can spend time doing nothing, just spinning your wheels. And the thing that concerns me is that we're 5 episodes in, and I don't have a general sense of where this is all going. Again, we have Moff Gideon. He's building this army, these dark soldiers. But now all of a sudden we're introducing Thrawn into the fold. So is he just going to sweep in at the end? And we don't know, we know who Grand Admiral Thrawn is, but it completely, I feel like it undermines Moff Gideon, who was really becoming like this evil, sinister antagonist, who kind of was casting this dark shadow over this little story that we're telling here in this Mandalorian mythology that we're setting up throughout the course of these 2 seasons, and now all of a sudden it's just like, no problem with Ahsoka. Look, I'll take Ahsoka all day long, and yeah, of course I would love to see Grand Admiral Thrawn, but it feels like these characters that are coming in, you got to be careful with it, because the show that you're doing, the story that you're telling, you can undermine everything that you're doing by just kind of going on to the next big thing, you know, and it becomes like a party trick. And I'm okay with The Mandalorian telling the story that The Mandalorian is telling, right? As far as season 1 is concerned, if it just kind of followed that path along here in season 2, I love that we're getting all of these side characters that are coming in and coming out, but it almost feels like, are we doing it at the sake of telling the story that we're supposed to be telling? I don't know. And again, are we doing it just so we can backdoor a bunch of pilot episodes for other characters so they can go off and they can get their series springboarded on the back of this show? You know, I don't want to. I don't want to see this show just become like this place where it's just like, oh, we're gonna launch another series. Well, we'll do the Boba Fett series. We'll do the Ahsoka Tano series. We'll do the Bo-Katan series, and we'll just have them come into an episode of The Mandalorian, and then we'll do an offshoot from there. And it's just like, why don't we just do The Mandalorian in The Mandalorian? You know. So anyway, guys, these are the things that are kind of going on in my head as far as this show is evolving for this season, because I'm kind of like, where are we going? What is the end game here? I had a feel of where things might end up with in season 1. I'm kind of like, I don't know where this is going, and we only have 3 episodes left, so they really got to kind of focus in and move this story forward. I'm interested in seeing where things go with Tython. I'm interested in seeing if any other characters show up somewhere down the line. Bo-Katan, Ahsoka, I don't know. Maybe the subsequent seasons we'll see them, of course, but I don't know who's going to show up at the end of this season. We'll see what's going on. I don't know where this story is going. So anyway, let me know what you guys think down below. Did you like this episode? Are you feeling like a little bit like I am, where it's kind of like, where are we going? What are we doing? Why do we keep moving the goalposts? If this is your first time here, please consider subscribing. Definitely like the video. Just take a second to do that. Comment, even if it's just to say hi. It does help the video as far as the algorithm is concerned. Gets it in front of more people, in front of more eyeballs, and that's always a good thing. And look, I will talk to you guys sometime soon. As always, be happy, be safe, be healthy. Have a great day. Bye-bye. Oh, and a belated happy Thanksgiving to all of my U.S. subscribers here. I hope you guys had a fantastic and wonderful holiday with your family and friends, and stay safe. Bye-bye.